The desperate call, the Kravos invasion, the war room of the Coalition Central Command buzzed with frantic activity. Holographic displays flickered across every surface, showing star systems painted in angry red. Each red marker represented a world consumed by the Kravos swarm. In the past 6 months, that crimson tide had swept across 43 star systems, devouring everything in its path. High Coordinator Kelleran stood at the center of the chaos, his 4 arms clasped behind his back in a gesture that his people used to hide fear. His species, the Valorians, had survived 3 extinction-level events in their history. They were known throughout the galaxy as survivors, strategists, and diplomats. But nothing in their long memory prepared them for this. The Kravos were not conquerors. They were not invaders seeking territory or resources. They were hunger given form, a biological nightmare that consumed entire biospheres and moved on. Their ships were not built but grown, living vessels that pulsed with organic menace. Their weapons were not lasers or missiles, but acid and spores, and creatures that burrowed into hulls like parasites. A junior officer approached, her scales pale with stress. She was Drethian, a species known for their calm demeanor, even in crisis. That she looked terrified spoke volumes. High Coordinator, the 7th Defense Fleet has been destroyed at Kelmer Station. Total losses. The Kravos are now 3 jumps from the Coalition core worlds. Her voice cracked on the last words. Kelleran nodded slowly, processing information he already suspected. The 7th Fleet had been their strongest remaining force, comprising vessels from 11 different Coalition species. 200 warships backed by orbital defense platforms. All gone in less than 4 hours. How long until they reach Valorian Prime? Kelleran asked quietly. Analysts estimate 2 weeks, possibly less if they maintain their current acceleration. 2 weeks until his homeworld, with its 7 billion souls, faced annihilation. 2 weeks until everything his civilization had built across 3,000 years turned to ash and biological slurry. Kelleran turned to face the central holographic display. It showed the galactic map, the Coalition's territory, shrinking day by day under the Kravos advance. His eyes drifted to a small, isolated section of space on the far edge of the display. A region marked with warning beacons and quarantine symbols. The Sol System, humanity's domain. There is one option we have not explored, Kelleran said slowly. His second in command, a crystalline being named Thrix, chimed in alarm. The sound was like breaking glass. No, Coordinator, you cannot be considering that. The humans are dangerous, unpredictable. They rejected our offer of membership and isolated themselves. We classified them as a quarantine species for good reason. Tell me those reasons again, Kelleran said, his tone sharp. Thrix's crystalline form flickered with colors indicating discomfort. They are violent. When we first made contact 150 years ago, they were engaged in multiple wars with themselves. Their planet was divided into competing nations, each armed with weapons capable of rendering their world uninhabitable. When we offered to mediate their conflicts, they refused. When pirates attacked one of their colony transports, the human response was so brutal that 17 species filed formal protests. They hunted down every pirate vessel, every pirate base, and they did not take prisoners. The carnage was excessive by any standard. And what happened after that? Kelleran pressed. No one attacked human vessels again, Thrix admitted. The pirates spread word that humans were not worth the trouble. Too costly. Too vengeful. Effective deterrence, Kelleran observed. What else? Their military philosophy violates our fundamental principles. They do not believe in proportional response. They do not distinguish between military and strategic targets in the same way we do. They develop weapons that we banned millennia ago as too cruel. Kinetic impactors, biological agents, artificial intelligence warfare systems. When we expressed concern, They told us politely, but firmly, that our ethics did not apply to them. Because they were not part of the coalition, Coloran said. By choice, Thrix emphasized. They chose isolation. They built defense platforms around their system that would make any invasion attempt suicide. Then they closed their borders and stopped talking to us. For 150 years, we have had minimal contact. Occasional trade at the border. Brief diplomatic exchanges. Nothing more. Kelleran was silent for a long moment, watching the red tide spread across the galactic map. Finally, he spoke. I am going to the Sol system. I am going to ask the humans for help. The war room fell silent. Every officer, every analyst, every aide stopped what they were doing and stared at him. That is madness, Thrix said flatly. They will refuse. Why would they risk themselves for a coalition that rejected them? Because the Kravos will not stop with us, Kelleran replied. Once they consume coalition space, they will continue spreading. Eventually, they will reach human territory. The humans are many things, but they are not stupid. They will see the logic in stopping the Kravos now rather than facing them alone later. And if they refuse? Then we die, Kelleran said simply. But at least we will have tried everything. Ambassador Kelleran's mission. 3 days later, Kelleran found himself aboard a small diplomatic vessel approaching the outer boundary of the Sol system. His crew consisted of 2 pilots, both veterans chosen for their steady nerves, and a single aide, a young Valorian named Cirith, who had volunteered despite knowing the risk. The warnings began as soon as they crossed into human-monitored space. Automated messages in 17 languages, including Coalition Standard, all saying essentially the same thing. You are entering restricted space. Unauthorized vessels will be destroyed without warning. Turn back immediately. Kelleran transmitted the agreed-upon diplomatic codes, ancient protocols from the First Contact era that supposedly guaranteed safe passage for official envoys. Then he waited, wondering if humans still honored those protocols, or if his ship would simply vanish in a flash of light. The response came 40 seconds later. A human voice, female, speaking perfect Coalition Standard, with only the slightest accent. Valorian diplomatic vessel, this is Sol Defense Command. We have confirmed your credentials. You are cleared to proceed to Mars Orbit Station 7. We are transmitting approach vectors now. Do not deviate from these vectors. Our automated defenses do not ask questions. Kelleran felt his tension ease slightly. They were not going to be vaporized immediately. That was progress dot as his ship followed the prescribed route deeper into the Sol system. Kelleran observed things that made his blood run cold. Defense platforms everywhere, thousands of them, each bristling with weapons that his sensors could barely classify. Ships patrolling in formations that suggested military precision beyond anything the Coalition employed. And everywhere, the evidence of massive industrial capacity. Orbital factories, mining operations on asteroids. Construction yards building vessels whose purpose Kelleran could only guess at. Humanity had been busy during their isolation. Mars Orbit Station 7 was enormous. A spinning wheel of metal and composite materials that could easily house 50,000 beings. As Kelleran's ship docked, he noticed automated weapons tracking their movements, ready to fire at the first sign of hostility. A human escort met him at the airlock. 2 individuals in black military uniforms, both armed, both watching him with expressions that revealed nothing. They led him through corridors filled with humans who stopped to stare at the alien diplomat. Kelleran heard whispers, questions in the human language that his translator picked up in fragments. Is that one of them? One of the Coalition? What's it doing here? I thought we didn't talk to them anymore. Finally, he was brought to a conference room with a large window overlooking Mars. The planet's terraforming was clearly visible from orbit. Green spreading across the red surface in vast cultivated zones. a single human waited for him. She was tall by human standards, with dark skin and hair pulled back in a severe style. Her uniform bore insignia that Kelleran's database identified as belonging to a high-ranking military commander. Her brown eyes studied him with an intensity that made Kelleran uncomfortable. "High Coordinator Kelleran," she said, her voice level and professional. "I am Commander Elena Torres, Chief of External Defense Operations for the Sol System. Please sit." Kelleran settled into a chair designed to accommodate various body types. Commander Torres sat across from him, her posture relaxed but alert. 150 years, Torres said without preamble. That is how long it has been since the Coalition told humanity that we were too dangerous to join your alliance. Too violent. Too unpredictable. You suggested we remain in our system until we evolved beyond our barbaric nature. Those were the exact words used by the Coalition diplomatic mission. I have read the transcripts. Kelleran's forearms moved in a gesture of acknowledgement. I have read those transcripts as well. The Coalition was wrong to speak to you that way. We were arrogant and short-sighted. Yes, you were, Torres agreed bluntly. But I assume you are not here to apologize. What does the Coalition want from humanity? Kelleran pulled up a holographic display showing the Kravos advance. Torres leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as she studied the data. This is the Kravos swarm, Kelleran explained. A biological threat unlike anything the galaxy has encountered in recorded history. They consume everything, entire biospheres, entire civilizations. In 6 months, they have destroyed 43 Coalition systems. Our military forces cannot stop them. Every battle is a defeat. Every defense is overrun. Your problem, Torres observed coldly. For now, Kelleran agreed. But the Kravos will not stop with Coalition space. They spread like a plague. Eventually, they will reach the Sol system. We are asking humanity to help us stop them now, before they become unstoppable. Torres was silent for a long moment, studying the tactical data. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. Your fleet dispositions are inefficient. You spread your forces too thin trying to defend everything. Your ship designs prioritize defense over offense. Your tactics assume a civilized enemy that follows predictable patterns. The Kravos do not care about your assumptions. We know our weaknesses, Kelleran said quietly. That is why we need your help. Humanity has a reputation for understanding warfare in ways we do not. A reputation you used to condemn us, Torres pointed out. Yes, Kelleran admitted. We feared what we did not understand. We saw your capacity for violence and assumed it made you barbaric. We did not consider that perhaps violence, controlled and directed, could be a necessary tool. We were fools. And now that foolishness may cost us everything. Torres stood and walked to the window, looking out at Mars. When she spoke, her voice was softer, almost reflective. After the Coalition rejected us, humanity went through a difficult period. Some wanted to prove we could be what you wanted us to be, peaceful and civilized by your standards. Others wanted to show you that we did not need your approval. We fought among ourselves, orbital colonies against Earth, Mars against the Belt. Millions died. She turned back to face Kelleran. And then we realized something. We were never going to be what the Coalition wanted. We are human. We are competitive, aggressive, and yes, sometimes violent. But those traits also make us adaptable, innovative, and determined. So we stopped trying to change who we are. We embraced it. We built weapons that would make your ethics committees weep. We developed tactics that violate every convention of civilized warfare. We became what we needed to be to survive in a hostile universe. And now we are asking you to be that on our behalf, Kelleran said. Yes, Torres confirmed. You want us to be the monsters you accused us of being, to save you from a worse monster, I know how that sounds, Kelleran began. It sounds honest, Torres interrupted. I respect that. You are not pretending we are suddenly friends or equals in your coalition. You are simply asking for our help because you are desperate. She returned to her seat, her expression hardening into something businesslike and cold. Humanity will help you, Torres said. But there are conditions. First, we operate independently. No coalition command authority over our forces. We will coordinate with you, but we make our own tactical decisions. Second, no restrictions on our weapons or methods. We fight the way we fight. Third, full access to all intelligence on the Kravos, their capabilities, their movements, everything you know. And fourth, when this is over, the Coalition formally acknowledges that humanity's methods, however uncomfortable they make you, were necessary and effective. No war crimes tribunals, no ethics investigations, no condemnations. Agreed? Kelleran did not hesitate. Agreed. All of it. When can you deploy? Torres smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator, anticipating the hunt. Our expeditionary fleet can be ready in 72 hours. 60 ships, fully armed and crewed. We have been tracking the Kravos situation for months through our intelligence networks. We know where they are going next. The Nexus Prime system, correct? Kelleran's heart skipped. How did you know that? Because it is what we would do, Torres replied. Nexus Prime is a major population center and a critical logistics hub. Take it, and the Coalition's ability to coordinate a defense collapses. The Kravos are not mindless. They have strategy. We have been studying them, preparing for the possibility that we would need to intervene. 60 ships, Kelleran said softly. The Kravos will bring thousands of vessels to Nexus Prime. Our analysts estimate at least 5,000 bioships in the assault wave. Numbers are not everything, Torres said. Your fleets number in the thousands, and they are losing. Perhaps the problem is not the quantity of your ships, but their quality. Perhaps 60 of our ships will be enough. She stood, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Kelleran grasped it with one of his 4 hands, feeling the strength in her grip. We will see you at Nexus Prime, High Coordinator, Torres said. Tell your people to stay out of our way. We will handle the Kravos. As Kelleran left the station, heading back to Coalition space, he felt a mixture of hope and fear unlike anything he had experienced before. Hope that humanity might actually be capable of stopping the Kravos. Fear of what humanity would become in the galaxy after they did. He had invited the apex predators to the fight. Now everyone would see what humans were truly capable of when they went to war. Asterisk. Arrival at the war zone. The Nexus Prime system was dying. High Coordinator Kelleran stood in the command center of the Coalition flagship Valiant Dawn, watching the tactical displays with growing despair. The Kravos swarm had arrived 6 hours ago, and already the outer defensive perimeter had collapsed. On the screens, thousands of bioships swarmed like insects around a carcass. They were hideous things, all organic curves and pulsing flesh, with weapons that spat acid and launched spore pods that burrowed into Coalition vessels. Each Kravos ship was a nightmare made real, grown rather than built. Alive and hungry, the Coalition had assembled everything they could spare for this defense. 400 warships from 20 different species, supported by orbital defense platforms and fighter squadrons. It was the largest fleet they had fielded since the war began. Against any conventional enemy, it would have been overwhelming force. Against the Kravos, it was barely slowing them down. Third Fleet is reporting heavy casualties, an officer reported, his voice strained. Their formations are breaking apart. The Kravos spore pods are overwhelming their point defenses. Kelleran watched as another Coalition cruiser went dark on the tactical display, consumed by the biological horror that the Kravos had become. 15 ships lost in the last hour alone. At this rate, the fleet would be destroyed before the day ended, and Nexus Prime, with its 12 billion inhabitants, would be next. A proximity alarm suddenly blared across the command center. New contacts were appearing at the edge of the system, dozens of them dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Unknown vessels entering the system, the sensor officer announced. Configuration does not match any known Coalition design. Wait, I am receiving identification codes. They are human. The displays updated, showing 60 ships arranged in a formation that looked nothing like Coalition standard. The human vessels were brutal in their simplicity, all hard angles and armor plating, with none of the elegant curves that Coalition species favored. They looked exactly like what they were, weapons designed to kill. Commander Torres's face appeared on the main view screen. Behind her, Kelleran could see a command bridge filled with human officers working with focused intensity. High Coordinator Kelleran, this is Commander Torres of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. We have arrived as promised. Transmitting tactical coordination protocols now. I recommend your forces pull back to defensive positions around Nexus Prime itself. We will handle the Kravos. Commander, there are over 5,000 enemy vessels in this system, Kelleran said urgently. Your 60 ships cannot possibly. Watch us, Torres interrupted calmly. All Coalition forces fall back immediately. Clear the engagement zone. We are going weapons-free in 30 seconds. Kelleran wanted to argue, wanted to explain that 60 ships, no matter how advanced, could not win against such overwhelming numbers. But something in Torres's voice, a certainty that bordered on absolute confidence, made him issue the order. All Coalition vessels withdraw to inner defensive perimeter. Clear space for human operations. The Coalition fleet began pulling back, battered and bloodied, retreating toward the planet they were supposed to defend. The Kravos swarm, sensing weakness, surged forward in a wave of organic horror. 5,000 bioships accelerating toward what they thought was prey. They had no idea what was about to hit them. The Kravos. Armada the Kravos operated on instinct refined by millennia of consumption. They had evolved to be perfect predators, able to adapt to any threat, to overwhelm any defense through sheer numbers and biological versatility. They had faced energy weapons, missiles, fighters, and every conventional military technology the galaxy could produce. Nothing had stopped them. The lead elements of the swarm detected the human ships and adjusted course, preparing to engage. Their organic sensors analyzed the new targets, categorizing them as standard military vessels, comparable to Coalition designs. Dangerous, but manageable, especially with such a numerical advantage. That analysis lasted exactly 8 seconds before it became catastrophically wrong. The human fleet did not maneuver defensively or form protective formations. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the Kravos swarm, their engines burning at levels that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. Within moments, they were moving at velocities that made Coalition captains gasp in disbelief. Then the humans opened fire. The first salvo was not lasers or plasma bolts or any energy weapon the Coalition forces recognized. Instead, streams of metal rods, each no larger than a human arm, launched from railguns mounted along the human ship's hulls. The rods were accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, turned into kinetic projectiles carrying unimaginable amounts of energy. When those rods struck the Kravos bioships, they did not explode. They did not burn or cut or melt. They simply punched through. A single rod would enter a Kravos vessel, passing through organic armor, through internal organs, through the living structure of the ship itself, and exit the other side, leaving a perfectly straight tunnel of destruction. The kinetic energy transfer was so massive that the bioship would shudder. its organic systems going into shock before dying seconds later. But the humans did not fire single rods. They fired thousands. The sky lit up with streaks of metal moving at relativistic speeds, a storm of kinetic death that swept through the Kravos formations like a scythe through grass. Bioships died by the dozens, then by the hundreds. Their organic hulls no match for the brutal physics of mass and velocity. In the Coalition Command Center, every officer stood frozen, watching the tactical displays in stunned silence. In less than 2 minutes, the human fleet had destroyed over 300 Kravos vessels. 300 ships that had taken the Coalition hours of sustained fire to even damage. What are those weapons? Thrix whispered, his crystalline form flickering with colors, indicating complete incomprehension. Kinetic impactors, Kelleran replied quietly, remembering Torres's briefing. Railguns. Simple physics taken to its logical extreme. The Coalition banned them centuries ago as too destructive. Now I understand why, Thrix said, his voice hollow. But the kinetic weapons were just the beginning. First strike, the Kravos swarm. For the first time in its existence, experienced something like confusion. Their instincts screamed at them to adapt, to change tactics, to overcome this new threat. The mass of bioships began to spread out, trying to make themselves harder targets, while launching their own weapons in response. Acid globules, the size of small buildings, arced through space toward the human fleet. Spore pods, each containing thousands of burrowing organisms, shot forward on biological thrusters. Biofighters, smaller vessels grown specifically for close combat, swarmed out from the larger ships in clouds of chittering. Hungry flesh. The human response was methodical and devastating. From each human capital ship, hatches opened and something new emerged. Thousands upon thousands of small objects, each no larger than a human torso, spreading out in a coordinated swarm. At first, Kelleran thought they were missiles, but the way they moved was wrong, too precise, too coordinated. What are those? He asked, already dreading the answer. A Coalition technical officer pulled up enhanced sensor data. They appear to be autonomous drones, sir. Each one is independently operating, but coordinated with the others through some kind of networked intelligence. One count over 40,000 individual units launched so far. 40,000 autonomous killing machines. Each one controlled by artificial intelligence. Each one sharing data with all the others, adapting and learning in real time. It was every nightmare the Coalition's ethics committees had warned about, made manifest. The drone swarm met the Kravos biofighters in a clash that defied comprehension. Each drone moved with impossible precision, dodging acid sprays and spore attacks while firing compact weapons that punched through organic armor with ease. They did not fight like living beings, concerned with survival or retreat. They fought like machines, calculating optimal attack vectors, sharing targeting data, coordinating kills with mathematical efficiency. A Kravos biofighter would be hit by 3 drones simultaneously, each attacking from a different angle, overwhelming its regenerative capabilities. A spore pod would be intercepted and destroyed before it could reach the human fleet. Acid globules were shot apart mid-flight by concentrated drone fire, and when drones were destroyed, when Kravos defenses managed to take them down, the humans simply launched more. The production capacity required to field such numbers was staggering, suggesting an industrial base far beyond anything the Coalition possessed. Within 5 minutes of engagement, the Kravos biofighter screen had been eliminated. 40,000 human drones had destroyed over 200,000 Kravos organisms, and the drones were still coming. Commander Torres's voice cut through the chaos, calm and professional. All human vessels advance to engagement range. Prepare antimatter torpedoes. Fire on my mark. Antimatter. The word sent a chill through every Coalition officer who heard it. Antimatter weapons had been banned for 300 years, deemed too destructive, too indiscriminate. The ethical implications of using them were enormous. The humans clearly did not care about implications from the human ships. Torpedoes launched in synchronized volleys. Each torpedo was small, containing only a gram of antimatter suspended in magnetic fields. But when matter and antimatter met, they annihilated each other completely, converting mass directly into energy according to Einstein's famous equation. The first torpedo struck a massive Kravos biocruiser, one of the largest vessels in their fleet. The magnetic containment failed on impact, and matter met antimatter. The explosion was equivalent to 20,000 tons of conventional explosives. A miniature sun blooming in the darkness of space, the biocruiser simply ceased to exist. No wreckage, no debris, just an expanding sphere of superheated gas. Where a ship had been seconds before, then the rest of the torpedoes hit their targets. Space became a sea of fire. Dozens of Kravos vessels vanished in antimatter explosions, their organic structures unable to withstand such fundamental destruction. The bioships tried to regenerate, tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. They were fighting physics itself, and physics always won. The coalition forces watched in awe and horror as the human fleet carved through the Kravos, swarm with methodical brutality. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy was designed for maximum lethality. The humans were not trying to disable or capture or merely defeat their enemy. They were trying to eradicate them completely, and they were succeeding. Tactical superiority, the Kravos swarm, despite its numbers, began to falter. For a biological entity that had evolved to be the galaxy's apex predator, the experience of being prey was incomprehensible. Every adaptation they attempted, the humans countered. Every tactic they tried, the humans predicted. The bioships attempted to concentrate their forces, using mass to overwhelm local defenses. The human fleet split into smaller battle groups, each one moving with impossible coordination, attacking from multiple vectors simultaneously. No matter where the Kravos concentrated, they found themselves flanked, surrounded, caught in crossfires that shredded their formations. The bioships tried dispersing, spreading out across the system to make themselves harder to target. The human drones pursued them relentlessly, hunting down individual vessels with pack tactics that would have made wolves proud. Every Kravos ship that tried to flee found itself chased by dozens of drones, each one working to slow it down until the main fleet could arrive with their heavier weapons. On the bridge of the Valiant Dawn, Kelran watched the tactical display in silence. The numbers told a story that should have been impossible. In 30 minutes of combat, the human fleet had destroyed over 2,000 Kravos vessels, 2,000 ships that would have required days of sustained coalition fire to eliminate, and the humans had not lost a single vessel. Asterisk. Oh, they had taken damage. Several human ships showed hull breaches and system failures. Hundreds of drones had been destroyed, but not one human warship had been knocked out of the fight. Their armor was too thick, their shields too strong, their damage control too efficient. They are not fighting a battle, Thrix observed quietly. They are executing an extermination. It was true. The humans moved with the precision of surgeons and the ruthlessness of exterminators. There was no hesitation, no mercy, no quarter given. Every Kravos vessel was a target to be eliminated. Every bioorganism a threat to be neutralized. Commander Torres's voice came through the communication channel again. Coalition forces, we are detecting Kravos vessels attempting to break off and retreat toward the outer system. We are pursuing, but we could use assistance blocking their escape vectors. Can you support? Kelran almost laughed. The humans were asking for help. They had single-handedly turned the tide of a battle that should have been a slaughter. And now they wanted coalition support to finish the job. All coalition vessels. Move to intercept fleeing Kravos forces. Kelleran ordered. Do not let any escape. If even one bioship survives to warn the rest of the swarm, they might adapt to human tactics. The coalition fleet, battered but renewed with hope, surged forward to join the fight. For the first time since the war began, they were hunting the Kravos instead of running from them. The tide turns. The Battle of Nexus Prime lasted 6 hours total. For the first 5 hours, it was a coalition defeat in slow motion, a desperate holding action against impossible odds. For the last hour, it was a massacre, but not the kind the Kravos were used to inflicting. The human fleet moved through the system like a force of nature, unstoppable and relentless. Their railguns never seemed to run out of ammunition. Their antimatter torpedoes kept launching until there were no targets left. Their drones swarmed over every Kravos vessel, exploiting weaknesses, coordinating attacks, learning and adapting faster than a biological enemy ever could. The Kravos, for all their evolutionary advantages, had never faced an enemy like this. They had evolved to fight living beings, organisms with needs and fears and survival instincts. The humans fought like they had no such limitations. They risked their ships without hesitation when the tactical situation called for it. They accepted losses as acceptable costs. They pursued fleeing enemies with a single-minded determination that bordered on obsession. And their technology, freed from ethical constraints, was simply superior. The Coalition had spent centuries developing weapons that were effective but humane, tactics that minimized collateral damage, strategies that preserved life when possible. The humans had spent those same centuries developing the most efficient killing methods they could. Imagine Dot in a war of extermination. Efficiency mattered more than morality. Dot, as the battle entered its final hour, the tactical situation became clear. Of the 5,000 Kravos vessels that had attacked Nexus Prime, fewer than 300 remained. Those survivors were scattered across the system, desperately trying to reach the jump points that would allow them to escape. None made it. The human fleet, supported now by coalition forces that had remembered how to fight with hope instead of despair, hunted down every last bioship. When a Kravos vessel tried to surrender, transmitting biological signals that might have meant submission or plea for mercy, the humans destroyed it anyway. There would be no prisoners, no mercy, no chance for the swarm to learn from this defeat. The last Kravos vessel died in a flash of antimatter fire at the system's edge. 73 light seconds from Nexus Prime. The tactical display, which had been filled with red enemy contacts just hours before, now showed only green friendly markers and the blue icons of human ships. The battle was over. Humanity had won. Aftermath and revelation in the command center of the Valiant Dawn, silence reigned. Officers who had been preparing for death, who had been composing final messages to loved ones, now stared at displays showing their survival. Nexus Prime was safe. The Kravos were dead. All of them. Commander Torres's face appeared on the view screen, her expression professionally neutral, despite having just orchestrated the complete annihilation of an enemy fleet. High Coordinator Kelleran, this is Commander Torres. The Nexus Prime system is secure. All Kravos vessels have been eliminated. We are beginning search and rescue operations for any Coalition survivors. Our medical ships are standing by to assist your wounded. Kelleran found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. Commander Torres, on behalf of the Coalition, I thank you. You saved 12 billion lives today. We are in your debt. Torres shook her head slightly. No debt, Coordinator. This was not a favor. This was strategic necessity. The Kravos are a threat to all life in this galaxy, including humanity. We simply dealt with them in the most efficient manner possible. Efficient, Kelleran repeated, looking at the tactical display. Over 4,700 Kravos vessels destroyed in 6 hours. It was efficiency on a scale that defied comprehension. I know what you are thinking, Torres said, her eyes sharp. "You are wondering if we are worse than the Kravos. You are questioning whether you made a mistake asking for our help. That is not—" Kelleran began. "It is exactly what you are thinking," Torres interrupted. "And you would be right to think it. We are dangerous, Coordinator. We always have been. The difference between us and the Kravos is that we can choose when and how to apply that danger. The Kravos consume because it is their nature. We destroy because it is necessary. That distinction matters." She leaned forward, her expression intense. "The Kravos are not going to stop. They will keep spreading, keep consuming, until someone stops them permanently. The Coalition cannot do it because you fight with one hand tied behind your back. You have rules and ethics and limitations that make you civilized but weak. We have none of those limitations. We will do what needs to be done, no matter how brutal, no matter how ruthless, because the alternative is extinction for everyone." Kelleran was silent for a long moment, processing her words. Finally, he spoke. "What do you need from us?" "Intelligence," Torres replied immediately. "Everything you know about Kravos territory, their movement patterns, their breeding grounds, if they have such things. We are going to take the fight to them. No more defensive battles, no more reacting to their attacks. We are going to hunt them down and eliminate them systematically. That will require a massive commitment of forces," Kelleran said. "A campaign that could last years. We are prepared for that," Torres assured him. "Humanity has spent 150 years building a military-industrial complex specifically designed for total war. We can sustain a long campaign. The question is whether the Coalition can support us logistically while we do the fighting. We will provide whatever support you need," Kelleran promised. "Bases, supplies, intelligence networks, all of it. If you can truly eliminate the Kravos threat, the Coalition will give you anything you require." Torres nodded, satisfied. "Then we have an understanding. I will have my staff coordinate with yours on operational planning. We will need a few days to repair damage and resupply, and we begin the extermination campaign." The screen went dark, leaving Kelleran alone with his thoughts and the reality of what he had unleashed. Humanity was going to save the galaxy by being exactly what the Coalition had feared they were: efficient, ruthless, unstoppable. Thrix approached, his crystalline form dim with contemplation. "What have we done, Coordinator?" "We asked monsters to save us from monsters." Kelleran watched the human fleet on his displays. 60 ships that had accomplished what thousands of Coalition vessels could not. "We have done what was necessary. And when this is over, we will have to live in a galaxy where humanity has proven their way of war is superior to ours. That is a problem for another day. Today, we survived. That is enough." On the surface of Nexus Prime, 12 billion people celebrated their salvation, not knowing that the price of their survival was paid in the currency of total warfare and technological terror. The Kravos had learned too late that they were not the apex predators of the galaxy. Humanity held that title now, and they had just announced it to the cosmos in the most definitive way possible. The galaxy would never be the same again. Asterisk